Hey, welcome to the Maxwell Leadership Podcast. We have a special episode for you today. Now, I've got to be honest with you. I'm kind of like John Maxwell when you write books. I think every book John writes, he says, this is my best book ever. Well, as the podcast guy, I think every podcast is our best podcast ever. And to be honest with you, if I ever stop thinking that, I'm going to stop doing podcasts. But today is special for a lot of reasons because we're going to get to fulfill what we do. This is a podcast that adds value to you with the expectation that you're going to multiply value to others. We're a podcast, we believe, we add value to leaders who multiply value to others. Today, I'm going to bring to you a very, very, very special leader. Now, she's a friend. You're going to hear that in our podcast talk because we're going to get so carried away. We're going to talk like friends. That's good. That's important. That's important to the whole concept of the content of this podcast. I'm going to introduce you to a friend in just a moment, but I want to introduce you to a leader. Marcylle Combs is a person that in the next 30 minutes, you're going to want to know everything you can about her. Marcylle, she started 7 or 8 businesses. We could get into all that, Marcylle. She still owns 3. She's done a ton in the healthcare and in managing relationship business all of her life. Yet, as she still owns these 3 businesses, she's figured something out that she's put in her first book. And the book's called Never Hire Your Friends. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, if you are a podcast viewer, you already get the point because she's got a black line right through the word never. If you're not listening to the podcast, you are already going, never hire a friend. Oh my, I know. I've got the story. I can tell you, I've got the scars. Because there really is a perception out there to not hire people you're close to and to not let people you hire get close to you. What Marcylle is doing is she's showing you a lifetime of leading that's not exactly the best way to look at your team. And while this may be a tongue-in-cheek kind of concept that Marcylle is spreading right here, let me tell you what Marcylle has done. As long as I've known her, she's broken glass ceilings because she is a mom. I think I've got this right, Marcylle, a mom of 5. 5. And a grandmother of 6. And she's great at both. And she's an incredible leader that has broken through glass ceilings, that has shown women that what they can lead and still have it all, an incredible family. And I'm super proud because every time Marcylle and her entire team comes to anything Maxwell Leadership, I spend all the time I can with her. 1, because it's just fun. 2, because I watch the camaraderie, the closeness she has with her team. And thirdly, I do it because I walk away inspired that I too can have great relationships with the people I work with. So get ready because we're getting ready to go. Now we've got a bonus resource for you today, like we do every podcast episode. So if you'll go to our website, maxwellpodcast.com/hire your friends, you will be able to get the bonus resource. You'll get the link there to watch us on YouTube, and you'll get Marcylle's website that we'll talk about in this podcast so that you can get more information of her. But Marcylle, that was a long introduction, but it was too short compared to how much I love and appreciate you. Welcome to the Maxwell Leadership Podcast.
Oh, thank you, Mark. I'm so excited. Of course, you know me. I love anything Maxwell. I love John. I love you, Mark. You're so much fun, and I love fun. So, and learn. John is my mentor many, many years before I ever met him.
Well, and let me say this, again, for those of you that are podcast viewers, and I highly recommend you jump on, especially in episodes like this, because you can watch how Marcylle communicates. But you'll see on here, let me get this right, you'll see on here right over here that the foreword is written by John Maxwell. And Marcylle, I'm the one that kind of is the gatekeeper on those kind of things, those requests of John. And I'll never forget when I took it to John, I said, John, Marcylle, our friend, is writing her first book. And it's talking about never hire your friends, leading your workplace through genuine connection. And I said, and I think you should do a forward for it. She wants you to anyway. Of course I'm going to do it. Absolutely. Now, what's funny is everybody on the podcast knows this. John has a statement that says you're never good the first time. What he doesn't know is he he wrote a foreword to something that violates that principle because, Marcylle, you nailed it. Your first book is incredible.
You're so kind.
And it's incredible
so
to people like me that do believe you can have great relationship with people that you call friend. And so I'm super excited about having you here. I'm glad John Maxwell endorsed the book. He wrote the foreword of the book. He's done videos about the book. And he's done that not just because you're a friend, speaking of what we're talking about, he's done that because he believes in what you've done for women in leadership, specifically you, that wants to make a difference in the businesses that they run. And so, again, I'm super excited. Can you talk to me a little bit about this concept of never hire your friends, and yet the message of the book is the exact opposite? What led you to embrace the power of friendship in leadership?
I think when I first realized that I was really going to have to work full time, I have 4 sons and 1 daughter, and the boys are really hungry, which I think you've discovered, Mark, at your house these days.
Yes.
And I wasn't really thinking that's what I was going to do in life. Life turns out differently than you believe. And once I realized that and embraced it, I thought, I don't really enjoy everyone I'm working with. And thankfully, I got in a position where I could hire them. And I thought, you spend so much of your life at work, then why not spend it with people you at least like? I'm not talking about people who are just like you. I'm talking about people that enjoy laughing occasionally and enjoy, especially when you work in home health and hospice, there are a lot of tragedies. You have to take a lot of lighter time in your life to get through those hard times. So I just decided I would start hiring people I knew, or if I interviewed them, I liked. And not only that, of course, there are people you have to have credentials for things. But, if you don't like them in their interview, I got to ask you, Mark, when are you going to like them? Because that's their best foot, right? So,
Exactly right.
It just became a concept that I worked on truly for the past 40 years, really, 30.
Well, and we've been doing leadership experiences for over a decade, maybe a decade and a half, Marcylle. I can remember the first time that John met you and came and spoke for your group. I can remember back then I wasn't quite in the same proximity place with John, but I can remember John doing what he has done to me hundreds of times since, calling me and saying, Mark, God just answered my prayer. I found a winner. And you're a winner, but I've watched over time that what makes you unique is the game you're playing. And the game you're playing is number one, you're going to make a difference for women that want to be in leadership and make a difference in leadership. But you're going to do it, number two, by protecting what makes women in leadership so good. And they do it relationally. They take people with them. And I think that's the winner that when John and I pray for these winners every day, I watch you do that. And what I love about this book is I've watched you do it for years. I've been inspired by you to do it myself for years. I've watched you free up people in leadership for years, but now you've made it repeatable, scalable, and now you've made it to where I can read this book and I can understand the magic behind what you're doing. So help me with this question. You've led me and us that have read this book to embrace the power of friendship in leadership. And so you really do that by 3 core areas, 3 core values really, that you call honor, humility, and honesty. Why do you believe those 3 are essential? And I'm going to come up with a follow-up question on that. I want to know which one's hardest for leaders to live out consistently. So first talk to us about this honor, humility, and honesty in working with people in deep relationship.
I think that when I started really trying to say, as you say, how do you make this where you can replicate it without being able to mentor someone? And that's where I just thought through it, and I'm a person of faith, so I prayed through it. And I think honor, you have to honor. John has honored me with the forward, honored me with that when people don't expect it. It's not just accolades. It's helping them, appreciating them for who they really are, which one, you have to figure out who they really are or have some divine intervention. And I think too many people say that humility is a weakness and not a strength. I've lobbied in DC on behalf of some issues, and they don't really want you to be humble when you're talking to congressmen. But if you are a person who says, I'm going to work as hard as the people who work for me, I'm not going to do the same job they are, but I'm going to work as hard. And if I can't do the job that they are doing, how can I serve them? So I think it's a little more than servant leadership. I think the humility means that if you have people around a table doing a really hard job, can you bring them a glass of water? Or can you, can you serve them up some popcorn? Is there something? But truly, I think the hardest one for people to wrap their arms around is honesty, because there are people who they really frankly just erupt whatever thought in their head comes tumbling out their mouth. But that's not what I mean by honesty. Honesty means if you have a good friend, and I fired, people before, and it ended up being the best thing for them, but I had to be honest with kindness. And I think depending upon your personality might be the one that you struggled with most. But I think for people to speak honesty with kindness, especially when it's going to hurt, when you're going to be able to say, here's the real thing wrong, and here's your real examples of it. And how do I do that with kindness? That is a hard bar to me, really, Mark.
Yeah, so I've studied a lot about humility, and I want to be humble. There was a season in my life, my first leadership assignment, that I faked humility, but inside I was not as humble as I want to be, and certainly I didn't feel as humble as I feel today in how I'm trying to lead. And I go back and I think about the Mark Cole and that leadership experience and people that work closely to me, because the closer you are, the more people know you. The more people know you, the more they determine whether you're congruent or not, right? I mean,
Right.
that's why John Maxwell says success is when people that know you the most love and respect you the most. As I went through this book, this is what I love. It's chapter 4, I believe, developing humility as strength. And here's what I love about this book. This is not just theoretical. What I love, and I've thought about it often, is humility natural, or can it be developed? Is it a God-given strength, or is it a muscle that we can exercise and become better? And here's what you taught me in this book. You taught me that there is a way. In fact, you gave me 10 steps. Starts on page 77 for those of you that already have the book. You gave me 10 steps on cultivating the habits of humility. As I read through these, I'm like, I underlined that. I can do that. And you gave me a roadmap to really authentically build humility into my leadership. And I just got to tell you, you did that on several occasions. And when she talks about that humility is one of the core values, I love that. I believe you're right. That's theory. That's principle. But you gave me application in how to make that a disciplined approach to leadership. And I love that about how you wrote the book.
I appreciate that, Mark. Well, I believe you can't mistake my kindness for weakness. I know you've heard that statement, but I think humility, don't mistake my humility for weakness either, because I can learn to be more humble. And I can't imagine what it's like for John, or for you, Mark, as you become more and more well-known. When John said he was one of the top paid speakers in the world last time, I've used that quote, by the way. Yeah. I just, because people are constantly telling you how good you are. And I think begin to think, hey, I am pretty good. And I always say, God just slams me with something.
Yes.
Oh, you were wrong on that, girl. So therefore, I say God's keeping me humble. But imagine the other thing I've heard a lot of people on the stage and then saw them behind stage. John is the same person on stage and behind stage, but I have met many, many people that are Christian, quote unquote, celebrities that are very different backstage, will barely give anyone the time of day than they are this vivacious speaker in front. And I never want to be that. And I believe that if you try every day, you don't have to be that.
Yeah. Another big pull out for me in the book is chapter 4. And in chapter 4, you talk about emotional intelligence matters in the workplace. And you began to deal with this. In fact, again, for those of you who already have the book, by the way, you should already be on Amazon right now ordering the book. But don't go just order one. Stay with me. I'm going to tell you how to use this book in groups. But you talk about, I don't know, let's see, there's 2, 4, 6. There's 6 bullet points on the nonverbal way to understand and become emotionally intelligent in communicating better. Again, I love the bullet points. I love the practical ways that you've done that. But you talk about emotional intelligence and how much it matters in the workspace. John says this, he often says this, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. How has caring for people and developing this emotional intelligence, how has that helped you build these thriving, profitable businesses that you have started, continued, sold? You're still managing 3 of them. How has that helped you?
Well, I do think it all goes back to connection. Now, you can meet someone who's 60 and they can act like they're 14, and you can meet someone who's 20 and they act like they're 60 with how emotionally intelligent or emotionally mature that they can be in that approach. I think that when I understand, and I've done lots of work on personalities and all the tests, and I love that kind of thing. But when you understand where a person sees the world, then and you try to humble yourself, because I am a result person. I can make a decision. I don't have a problem with that. But I have friends who will wander around the wilderness for 40 years. And it feels like they can't or they won't. I need to see the world through their eyes so that maybe I can slow down a little bit. Because maybe as I'm the bull in the china closet running over everyone, that's not a mature way of working. But when I can really get them to communicate to me why, or the high perfectionist who is, thinking of all those things I don't really want to think of. I'm a little more like John when it comes to, I just want to get this thing done. Let's forget the details. Let's just get to the end. But what I've learned is that those detailed people will keep this person out of trouble. And so therefore I need them to read my contracts, and I need them to set up my back office and my computer system. But if I'm not mature enough, if all I think of myself is that I've got the right answer and you're too slow and this is where it needs to go, then I'm going to make a whole lot more. I'm going to backtrack a whole lot more than otherwise. And it's hard to, formulate that complete description, in the few minutes we have, Mark. But I think for me personally, that's a good example of how can I be more emotionally intelligent, because I'm trying to understand the whys of the people around me. Now, again, the best organization is one who has a mix of all those personalities.
Gang, just real quick, let me tell you this. So we're talking with Marcylle Combs, a very personal friend to John and I. We've done leadership experiences together for years, but she's a business leader that I have watched her and her team grow together. I've watched her and her team excel together. If you would like more information on Marcylle, she says the only challenge you have of getting her is to make sure you know how to properly spell Marcylle. So I'm getting ready to tell you how to spell Marcylle in just a moment. But on your website, you really have a lot of things that commit to helping you unlock people to lead from a relational level better. In fact, you do a great job of celebrating the uniqueness of women in leadership, but calling them to distinct leadership that can be effective. And so if you want more information on Marcylle, certainly the Amazon is where you go get the book that we're talking about today. But go to MarcyLleCombs.com. Let me spell that for you. MarcyLleCombs. MarcyLleCombs.com. MarcyLleCombs.com. You'll be able to get more information. And again, a lot of tools about specifically women that have this drive to be a full, comprehensive, relational leader. You've managed teams through conflict, through failure, through personal crisis. What does it look like to lead with compassion without compromising accountability?
Oh, wow. It goes back to that honesty. I will tell you, we've been, for many, many years, I owned a direct provider of home health and hospice. So we contracted, if you will, with the federal government. And to deal with the federal government is difficult because in a swipe of it's not like your normal business that you charge X and you get X and you got to manage your expenses. They just get in a mood and, it's difficult. I think and you didn't really ask this, but I'm going to answer the hardest thing I've ever had to do. We took a massive cut with this program and we had to lay off some people. And that was, if someone deserves for their job to end, it may be an opportunity for them to do something different, or maybe they just learned something through that. When a person is doing a great job and it's more of, an economic thing out of your control that happens within 4 weeks, it is extremely hard to tell people how much you appreciate them, how much you love them, how much they've done a great job, but their job is getting cut. And I think that's where you come down to the challenges of friendship management. And having friends, it's having hard conversations that truly a person has done nothing to really have to accept that on their side. I think that truly the hardest thing I've ever done and the hardest conversations I've ever had to have.
And I think it should be hard. I think whether you're friends or not, I too have let go or transitioned people that were very, very close to me. I've transitioned some people that are not so close to me. But I believe a leader that really leads from the heart, a leader that really cares about her or his people, should absolutely feel the emotion of that. Transitions are not easy, and leaders should be driving people toward growth. But when that growth requires the person to make a transition to no longer be on the team, we should feel that. So, and I think you articulate that in a very tangible, applicable way in the book. Let's talk about fun for a moment, though. Okay, so we let the people go, but
subject, Mark.
Yes, exactly. You believe fun is serious business, though. You talk about that in the book. What role does fun play in creating team engagement and team connection?
Do you know, I think to have a little bit of fun brings people closer together. Our motto was, we laugh with you and we cry with you. Wherever you are, that's where, we need to be. We would create fun. We had something called Surprise and Delight, because if you just have an employee appreciation program that you do an employee of the month every month, after a while, Nobody nominates anyone. No one's excited about it. It's like getting your paycheck. It's an expectation instead of a surprise. So you want to do things they don't expect. Now I'm not really one who loves to dress up, but I gotta admit, I have been Snow White before. I have been the Bride of Frankenstein. We would have, we did one time something where we would poll everyone coming to a leadership meeting, what are your favorites? And then we gave them a little paper sack of whatever their favorite candy or their favorite, if you're healthy, protein bar or your favorite drink. And that was handed to you when you came in. It's hot in Texas. And so you have workers are going out into the home, and a lot of elderly people still have their heat on when it's 100 degrees out. So we would have ice cream bars when they came by the office, cheap things. We've done so many fun activities and games. Not every person loves to do games, but I will tell you, after they end that game, they really will have connected. We volunteered. We took all our leadership and volunteered at the nonprofits in town. And so I worked beside at a place where they, it's kind of like Goodwill, but it was a local kind of charity. And you can't believe the things people give away. If you're giving your stuff away, make sure it doesn't have cobwebs in it. And so I worked beside a couple leaders that were at a real different level than me, and I got to know them. I mean, not when I'm standing in front of the group, I might talk to them, but when you work and you're digging through cobweb boxes, and you wish that was the days we had masks, it makes a difference. So we had a really fun. We've done scavenger hunts. I could go on and on, Mark, but it doesn't have to be expensive. I've done those field trips with John. It doesn't have to be that level. Going to London, my favorite, but it can just be something simple they do from their own budget.
Well, and I've watched you absolutely do the fun, inexpensive things, and I've watched you put serious percentage points of your overall business back into your people. It's a mindset that we're after. We're not after the cost or the extravagance. We're after the discipline. And you lay out that discipline of treating your people like you would your friends in both how you respect them, but also how you invest in them. And I'm telling you, I can speak on your behalf. I can be the president of your Chamber of Commerce, Marcylle. You do it.
It would be wonderful.
You do it on the simple side. You do it on the more costly side. You make sure that you do it. You told that story of just doing something fun, doing something silly. I'll never forget. Oh man, this would have been 15 years ago. I've never told this story on the podcast. One of the things that we did to kind of relate. You talked about. Did you say you dressed up as one of the princesses?
Right.
You remember
Snow White.
Snow White. So I remember we were trying to drive home. We were in a very specific part of our business, and we were trying to go. And so it was back when the movie Braveheart was good. And so me and about 3 other of our leadership teams, all who happened to be male, we all came in with Scottish kilts. And let me tell you this. My white legs, Marcylle, has still scarred some people to this day, coming in with a Scottish kilt. So, but the point that Marcylle is making that we did, Jake's in the studio. Yes, it was glow in the dark. It was fluorescent. Yeah. My legs were fluorescently plugged in. Jake in the studio here with me is about to die over here with that visual image. Here's the point. What I love, and you tell a story in the book about empowering a team member to launch a global nonprofit out of your business. And I want to transition here before we run out of time, because what I've watched you do, again, whether it's in the big events, leadership events that I watch your people do, or when I sit down with you and you share a story, you're constantly looking for ways to launch your people into a feeling of empowerment. So here's the question for you. How do leaders identify and unleash the potential in others?
Do you know, I one of my mottos was find something that I've never found anyone that there wasn't some tiny part of them you could love. I don't mean like. There are more likable people than others. You know this. But I've never found someone. And once you have found that part, you usually find what their talent is. One of my favorite questions to employees is, what's your dream job? You know, you get a new college grad, they barely know they even have a degree. What's your dream job? And it's, I had one person say, I want to have your job. And I said, do you really? Because I might give it up this afternoon. But, you know, if you can figure out what they really want, your goal is to try to give them the opportunities, not do the work. They have to do the work, but give them opportunities so they could potentially achieve that goal. So in other words, if they want to be an event planner, I don't know why anyone wants to be an event planner, but if they want to be an event planner, then let them plan your regional meeting or your meeting that you have once a month. If they fail, it won't be the end of the world. I believe in measured failures. Walt Disney, I think, said everyone needs a great failure early on in their life. So they can fail and you can help them. And then you give them books. We give all new employees 2 or 3 books. I try not to make them all Johns so they won't think I'm just, I drank the Kool-Aid.
We don't mind.
But I still have, you know, a closet full of books that we give away because I love books. I love podcasts and I love audio. So I think that's part of how you've got to inspire them, not dictate to them. You do have to give them the parameters of their job, but you know, I think that in each person, the goal is to help them believe they can achieve. I don't have time to tell you the whole story of the person who gave me the inspiration to achieve more financially, but.
Well, and let me tell you this, as I knew we would, I've ran out of time with you and I don't want to, but I do want to address one more thing you talk about in the book before I again challenge you podcast family to do something with this book. You write in the book that community is built on consistency. Mm-hmm. How do you help leaders make friendship-based leadership a sustainable practice rather than a short-term kind of feel-good idea? And so everybody says, oh man, let's be friends, but oh wait, too close, stranger danger, get back a little bit. How do we make this more of a sustainable practice than a short-term feel-good idea?
I think you have to be, it's a little bit what I said earlier about being on stage and backstage the same person. Someone told me once, Marcylle, you could never be an axe murderer because you always, like, I find a place to park in the parking before, you know, phones and GPS and that kind of stuff. I had to park in the same place at DFW so that I could find my car when I came out without wandering up and down. But, you know, are you the same person? You can be not a vivacious, outgoing, crazy person, but be the same. You can even be a little grumpy as long as you are always the same person. And to me, that's the thing of friendship also, is that I'm going to be the same person with Mark on this podcast. And I'm so proud of you for spelling my name correctly. It's hard. My parents were creative. I might always be in a good mood. I might have some really sad days, but I'm always going to make a consistent answer. I'm always going to say, and if I can't keep my commitment, if I say, Mark, I'm going to be here, I'm the first person to tell Mark that I can't keep that commitment. You can have friends who are really your heart friends and friends who are your friendly friends and people who are your distant friends. As long as they know when they meet Mark, they're going to meet the same person every day. I don't know if that answers your question.
Oh, it does. It does. I mean, in fact, you brought up another point that you made in the book, that there are types of managers. We're not even going to have time to get into that, but the types of managers, you just struck my mind. And I went, oh, yeah, we didn't even get to that. Here's what I want to tell you. You've been listening to this. Perhaps you're a female leader that is going, man, I can't get rid of my relational side, but I need to know how to better use that. Marcylle has several things on her website, as well as a whole business built around empowering and raising the level of effectiveness in women leaders. For that, you need to go to MarcylleCombs.com. Again, for those of you that now can write because you were working out in the first part of this podcast, MarcyLleCombs, MarcyleCombs.com. You need to go check it out, get more information about her. She speaks in organizations. She's a brilliant communicator as well as a brilliant thinker. So you want to do that. For those of you that have been listening to this and this book is nailing you, male or female, it doesn't matter to me. It struck me. I want you to go get the book, but don't just go be selfish. You need to find somebody that's already a friend and you have some dysfunction in your friend-work relationship, and you need to get rid of that dysfunction because of the practical steps in here, because you can be a friend and a colleague at the same time. For those of you that have some people on your team and you wish they would be a little more friendly, go get them the book. You need them to have the book. So I'm going to challenge you, don't go order one copy of the book. Go order 2, 4, 5, 10, and get your team understanding, embracing what Marcylle has been doing for years. And that is working alongside people that like her at 5:05 p.m. as much as they like her at 5 o'clock p.m. on payday. And she has people that like her just as much after payday as they do during the work day when they know they're getting paid. So check it out. Marcylle, you are a gift to John and I. We're so thankful to be a part of this book with you. It is just released. You need to go make it a part of your library. You need to put it on your desk. For the next read that you're going to do, you need to get it in your hands, in your friends' hands, and let's go make a difference together. You know why? Because everyone deserves to be led well.